So today we're going to be performing an oral exam. So I'm going to look at the symmetry of your face. Do you mind taking your glasses off? So we're looking at the symmetry. Everything seems to be looking good. Now I want you to move your jaw side to side. Okay, good. Good. I'm going to need you to do it again, just without me touching. Okay, good. So now I want you to open your mouth, close your mouth, and open, close. Now I want you to pucker your lips. I want you to smile. Now can you say ooh wee?
Ooh wee.
One more time.
Ooh wee.
Good. So now I want you to blow your cheeks, pluck your cheeks, like a bubble. Okay, so now I just want you to breathe through your nose. Okay. Now without, breathe through your nose. Okay, good. So now I want you to open your mouth. I want you to put the tip of your tongue at the top. Good. Okay. Now I want you to close your mouth. Now I want you to stick your tongue out and go down. You stick it out one more time. And then go up. Okay, good. So now I'm going to put the tongue depressor against your tongue. I'm going to apply a little bit of force. So I want you to push against. Don't let me get the tongue depressor close to your face. Okay, good. You got good strength. Okay, so now I want you to bring your tongue from the left to the side. Okay, good. Now you can close. So now I want you to stick your tongue out, straight ahead. Go down, go up, go down, go up. Now go to the left, go to the right. Okay, good. Close. So now I'm going to do the tongue depressor on, I think, your left or right side. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to apply force. Do not try to go against me. Okay, good. Now I'm going to do the same with the right side. Okay, I want you to follow your tongue with my finger. Okay, good. You got good movement. Okay, so now I need you to open wide. Okay, good. Good. Now can you bring your head down just a little bit? Okay, good. Now can you stick your tongue out for me and then say ah.
Ah.
So now I want you to open wide. Say ah.
Ah.
Say it one more time.
Ah.
Okay, good. Okay, so can you smile for me? That way I can see your teeth. Good. Now I'm going to take a tongue depressor. I'm going to check your gag reflex. Okay, good. So now I need you to say paw for me, but I'm going to need you to say it 20 times, okay?
Pa 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 pa.
Good. I'm going to need you to say paw for me 20 times.
Okay. Pa 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 pa.
You good? So one last time, can you say pa for me 20 times?
Pa 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 pa.
Okay, so now I'm gonna need you to say ta for me 20 times.
Ta 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 ta.
You're good. Okay, so I'm gonna need you to say ta one more time for me again 20 times.
Ta 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 ta.
You're good. I need you to say ta for me one more time 20 times.
Ta 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 ta
Good.
ta.
Okay, so can you say ka for me 20 times?
Ka 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 ka.
Good. Okay, I'm gonna need you to repeat it one more time 20 times.
Ka 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 ka.
Good. Okay, so one last time, can you say ka for me 20 times?
Ka 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 ka.
Good. Okay, so this next time I'm gonna need you to say them all together, pa ta ka, but only 10 times.
Pertica, 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 pertica.
Good. So can you say putica for me another time for 10 times?
Pertica, 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 pertica.
Good. So one last time, can you say putica for me 10 times?
Pertica, 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 pertica.
Good. Okay, so we are done with this section. Now we're gonna move to the assessment. I want to see how many words you know. Some of the words I'm going to ask you about will be easy and some of them will be hard. If you don't know what a word means, go ahead and guess. It's okay to guess. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's begin. Look at all of these pictures. Put your finger on the word I say. Put your finger on horse. Okay. I'm going to say some more words. Be sure to look carefully at all of the pictures when I say a word. You may use some of the pictures more than one time, and you may not use all of the pictures. Put your finger on mouse. Tell me the letter of the picture that best describes parrot. Tell me the letter of the picture that best describes pork. Tell me the letter of the picture that best describes flock. Tell me the letter of the picture that best describes equestrian. So now we're going to move to the transportation section. Tell me the letter of the picture that best describes boat. Point to or tell me the letter of the picture that best describes handlebars. Point to the letter that best describes hanger. Point to the letter that best describes aquatic. Point to the letter that best describes engineer. Point to the letter that best describes aviator. Point to the letter that best describes keel. Point to the letter that best describes teamster. So now we're going to move to the occupation section. Point to the letter that best describes mechanic. Point to the letter that best describes postal. Point to the letter that best describes healer. Point to the letter that best describes surgeon. Point to the letter that best describes trooper. Point to the letter that best describes infirmary. Point to the letter that best describes courier. Point to the letter that best describes intern. Point to the letter that best describes triage. So now we're going to move to the clothing section. Point to the letter that best describes footwear. Point to the letter that best describes trousers. Point to the letter that best describes breeches. Point to the letter that best describes brim. Point to the letter that best describes arches. Point to the letter that best describes digits. Digits. Point to the letter that best describes shift. Okay, now we're going to move to the food section. Point to the letter that best describes loaf. Point to the letter that best describes seasoning. Point to the letter that best describes squeezed. Point to the letter that best describes citrus. Point to the letter that best describes rye. Point to the letter that best describes sodium. Point to the letter that best describes need. Point to the letter that best describes bovine. Now we're going to move to the grooming section. Point to the letter that best describes shaver. Point to the letter that best describes cavity. Point to the letter that best describes bar. Point to the letter that best describes bristles. Point to the letter that best describes plaque. Point to the letter that best describes lather. Point to the letter that best describes vial. Point to the letter that best describes lie. Now we're going to move to the tools section. Point to the letter that best describes saw. Point to the letter that best describes cord. Point to the letter that best describes excavate. Point to the letter that best describes chuck. Now we're going to move to the household section. Point to the letter that best describes grill. Point to the letter that best describes thread. Point to the letter that best describes section. Point to the letter that best describes styling. Point to the letter that best describes girdle. Point to the letter that best describes seamstress. Point to the letter that best describes bobbin. Bobbin. Point to the letter that best describes canister. So now we're going to move to the recreation section. Point to the letter that best describes playground. Point to the letter that best describes shuffle. Point to the letter that best describes tail. Point to the letter that best describes casino. Point to the letter that best describes bonnet. Point to the letter that best describes stitches. Point to the letter that best describes horsehide. Point to the letter that best describes drafts. Drafts. Now we're going to move on to the next section. This is the last section. Point to the letter that best describes calculator. Point to the letter that best describes stamp. Point to the letter that best describes lead. Point to the letter that best describes mark. Point to the letter that best describes categorize. Point to the letter that best describes dispenser. Point to the letter that best describes graphite. Point to the letter that best describes translucent. Okay, good. Thank you. So we're done with the assessment.